Welcome to the Fabric Frenzy Workshop first episode. In these episodes, we are simply going to play with fabric, specifically scraps. We are going to work our slow stitching and our fiber art and things like that, like an artist. We're going to design. We're going to start with simple elements and learn to layer, learn to use color and texture and composition and all of those things to our advantage. We're going to steal like an artist in the sense that we're going to let ourselves be inspired by things we see, and we'll be doing that a little bit later in the series, where we'll be using something specific and we'll be drawing elements out of it in order to create our own. We're going to be learning a lot of very subtle little things, but things that we can use. Now, in this, we needed a 5x7 approximately a background fabric, which is what I have here. And this is a very loose weave, textured. This was actually a curtain panel that I bought and at a thrift store, because I knew it would be perfect for something like this. It's substantial enough for me to build onto, but so easy for me to sew through, okay? Now, our required elements were, first of all, a circle. So, I had a circle here. I'm going to put it a little off center. Now, most artists will never put their focal point dead center because it doesn't give them a chance to build any depth or a depth of field illusion. It doesn't allow them to leave space for movement. Okay, so their focal point will usually go, it can touch dead center, but it will usually go elsewhere. Now, a lot of artists use the principle of 9. You can't really see that. Let's see. If you take anything you're working on, well, that's not going to work either. And visually, if you have to, and literally, if that's the only way you can do it, draw that thing into 9 sections. Dead center is here, so that tells you where you don't want to start. But it's okay to touch that area. And so as big as my circle is, we're definitely going to touch dead center, but we're not going to put it dead center. Look at that, and then look at this. This composition already feels more artistic. It feels like we have room for expression and we don't have to stay to a specific pattern or rules or laws. Let me get a sip here of tea. Okay, now what are we going to do here? Here's a rectangle of fabric. I think I'll just use it as part of that edge. Okay. This is my square, any size, remember. These are all scraps. All right. Then it was a floral cutout. Well, I have that, but I don't know where I want it right now. I might just put it in the center since. There you go. Now, a yarn element, and I pulled out this blue yarn because there was some blue in the back. This is not the same blue, but I think it's good enough. That will kind of break that up, and then look, I had another little piece of it that kind of plays well with that, doesn't it? I said fabric with metallic thread. I don't want to put anything like that on there right now. A woven fabric, that's definitely this one here. Lace. I do have this little lacy piece. Oh, isn't that cute? All right. That's kind of a cute little vignette all on its own, isn't it? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements right there. We have lace, we have woven, we have yarn element, we have floral cutout, we have square, we have circle. Now I need a metallic type thing, and I need 6 additional pieces, okay? So I'm going to kind of build a background with that because I think I like the way I laid the focal point out. So I'm going to remove this part for right now. If I can pick it up in one piece and lay it over. Okay. Now I'm going to be playing with stuff in the background here, and I've got all kinds of stuff out here. So we could be just building a background. Nothing here is permanent or fixed. This has a seam on it. I'm going to go ahead and, for this piece, cut the seam off. Lots of times I leave it on and use it. Okay. Because I drew on this fabric, I need to put something more substantial color-wise under that to block some of that color. Let's add just a piece of color like this. And let's see, what else have I got here? I need my blingy fabric. Do I have blingy here? I do have a little bit of metallic edging. That was looking good there. Still need a little something under there. What am I going to use? I like that. Let's bring it down and let it. Let's put this big piece over here. Let this one come over the top. May have to pin it down. Okay. I needed 6 more elements plus this. So far I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 elements. Put a little of this purple in there because there is definitely purple in that circle that I chose. And this will also cover up some of that orange. Now I can lay my piece like that. I can lay this piece like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 elements plus the, let's see, how many did I have? I had 6. I need 13 elements altogether. Let's put the focal point back on. Let's see, where's the edge? I want to bring it a little bit further over. All right, let's get some of this down so it doesn't travel on us. Okay, how many again was it? It was 13 altogether. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 there, and I had 6 in the background. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 6 is 13. All right, now we have the 13 required. Do we want anything else? Well, for me, I would like, I think, to draw that purplish color a little more. And then even though that isn't purple, it's in that range, and I really like the splash of color it gives. Okay, I think I'm liking that. All right. This is a totally unrelated color. So this is in the same color tones that are in the circle. And even though it's not purple, it pulls these lavenders, these purples, these bluish and rosy colors. It pulls it over. And what happens now is that it balances out this piece. This doesn't look out of place. That doesn't look out of place. And even this splash of non-connected color does not look out of place. We have, in other words, cohesively brought it together. We've balanced out our piece. We've used all our elements. And we've placed our focal point a little off-center. So now we have movement going this direction, okay? And that we played with our pieces going that direction. Let's get the rest of these and trim it down a little bit so that we can tell a little bit more about it. Of course, you never judge any pieces that you're stitching on your artwork until you got it stitched, as to whether it's finished, got enough, you love it or hate it. All right, now we're going to turn this over and we're going to clean it up just a little. We don't have to get right next to the edge yet because we don't have it sewn, and sometimes that's really hard to do. So, but we'll just clean up a little bit, see if we can get a little better perspective of how we're looking. Now, you can see on my desk is just parts and pieces. There's just stuff laid out here for me to look at, to work with. This was what my palette, you might say, looked like. And that's what I drew out of. That's what you want to learn to do too, is don't be so picky. Don't go and pick every little particular scrap. Just get a pile of stuff and then work with that, okay? Unless, in this case, you do the exact thing that I ask you to do, get a circle, a square, a floral cutout, and so forth. Then you're looking for something specific, all right? Okay. Gotta trim that up just a little bit more. Okay. Get these out of our way now. They'll be there for another project. Now, do we have to be finished? Can we put more than 13 elements? Of course we can. And you may want to add embellishments. But first, let's stitch this, because let's see what we want to do. But let's judge this after we get it stitched as to what it might need. Because stitching does change the look of these pieces. So I'm going to stitch first. Also notice that I'm working in uneven numbers. I love to work in uneven numbers, and most artists work in uneven numbers. Okay. All right. There you go. Let's stitch and see where we go from here. All right. Now, I'm just going to do some just regular straight stitching on this. How I'm going to do each one, I don't exactly know yet. But let's say I want to start with the circle, and I want to get it down first. I've got this kind of orangey color thread, and I'm going to use it. And that's one way that I'm going to pull in this odd color and make it more part of the piece. Is I'm going to use that color a couple of times while I'm stitching and around the piece, and that will help again to pull it all together. Well, I got a knot right off the bat. Let's see if I can work it out. Come on. Okay, we did. Okay, I'm going to catch the edge of that yarn as I go around that outer circle. I'm just doing an overcast stitch around that circle. I can go ahead and take that pin out. I will be doing some overcasting stitches, some straight stitches. I'm basically just going to get these items stitched down. Now, what I'm not going to do is just straight lines, straight lines, straight lines. I am going to go around my elements on my focal point, because I do want them to be the focal point. And so when I stitch them kind of on their own, that kind of keeps them that way. And then if I want to do some straight stitching in the background area, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of times though, I like to do the outline stitch and then come back with a straight stitch. That way I know everything is down well. Since I work with scraps and raw edges, that helps me to keep all those edges secured. It's a little extra step there, but it's worth it. This color thread is not a big contrast, as you can see on that background. But as I work it in more around the piece, it definitely will pull this color down and around and make it seem like it was supposed to be there all along. I'm going to try in this series to just talk you through my thought processes. That's the only way I know to share with you my style or how I'm doing things. It's just to share with you my thought processes as I go through this, and as to why I do certain things. And that way, if I mention something that you like or see the sense of, or you know that you could use that to enhance your work, then you got something to gain there. It wouldn't hurt to have a notebook and keep notes as you go through this series, because believe me, even the best memory, you can't remember everything, and you will come to a point when you will wish, oh, I can't remember why she did that, or what she did to correct that, or what she did to bring that more into focus, and so forth and so on. So, it doesn't hurt to keep some notes. Pull that out of my needle. Let me thread it back up. Okay, I'm going to do some of this stitching off camera, and then come back, and I'm not going to do it all off camera because I want to talk more about where, when, and how I choose the stitching. There you go. So hang in there, and I'll be back with a little more of this project in just a little while. Well, it's all stitched, and let me bring you down so you can see it better. Okay, let's get it in camera there. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what I did for the stitching. Now, this color I talked about, it's just an odd color that I threw in there, and because I liked it, it was contrasting, it was in medium tones, and it blended well with the other colors. So that's the reason that I chose that. Now, to bring this color into the rest of the piece so that it doesn't look odd, I use the same color thread, and I work this area down in here with that thread, and also did outline the stitch down the circle with it. So that brings this color down this way. So now it blends with this. Then I used a green over here on the blue to outline and overcast this piece. And then I brought that green color over and did the same thing over here. So now these two pull together and these pull together. And so the whole piece then becomes very unified. It's in harmony with itself, but it's very balanced also that way. The blacks are balanced, okay? The blues are balanced. The lavenders are balanced. When you're playing with color, a lot of times when something really bothers you, it's because you haven't balanced it out. You haven't made it make sense in the piece. Sometimes a single color by itself is perfectly okay. In fact, it's the way to accentuate something that you really want to jump out. But a lot of times in your collaging, you're making fabrics for something, or you're just using your scraps to slow stitch pieces like this in collage, you want your piece to be visually pleasing, cohesive, in harmony, and a lot of times that has to do with your color and how you're using your color. Now that's how I work it out in my mind, and that's how I end up with what's pleasing to me. I've had a lot of people comment that I have a talent for color and composition. You know, I don't know about that. I just do what I do, but I do like what I end up with, and if you like what I end up with, that's what I'm trying to explain. My thought process is how I get there. So sometimes when your piece just isn't doing what you want it to do, a lot of times it's because you haven't added enough elements to make it come together, or your colors are not pulled together in such a way that they make sense on the piece, okay? Now, if you know me and my work, you know I use every color in the world in every way. And but I do these simple things as I'm working, and I do them a lot of times intuitively. I don't think about it. But when I end up and look at my piece, I realized, that's what I've done. And that's why it's looking so good to me at this point, okay? Or I haven't done it, and that's why this piece is bothering me, all right? So that's just a couple of tips in this video that will, I hope, help you understand how I arrive at the designs I do, how I get there. There are lots of fiber artists on YouTube, and a lot of very artistic slow stitching artists on YouTube. And so I would recommend that you watch several of them, because all of us have different techniques, and you can learn something from everyone. And then as you keep learning and keep applying techniques that you like, your work will grow and mature too. And you'll be able to start you'll find yourself designing everything you do, not just copying, okay? All right, well, that's that for that piece. Now people say, well, what in the world could I do with that piece? Well, you remember this pouch here, okay? Remember how I laid it out and put this piece right in the center of the fold when I had it all opened up? That's what I did. But what if I had put a piece like this on the back of a folded? Wouldn't that make a pretty back? Of course it would. Or what if I had wanted to use something like this? Let's do it. No, we got the flower. We got to get it standing up. So what if I wanted to do something like that? A pretty piece of fabric that you have made would look gorgeous, okay? What a pretty piece that would be. It's almost like two pieces when you open. It's very subdued here, and then when you open it up, you get all this blast of color, okay? So never forget that there are things that you can do with all of your pieces. You can incorporate that into a larger piece of work. It could actually be a quilt block, just anything that you can think of. It could be a gorgeous little needle case cover, okay? Or just because book cover. Don't be held back by the fact that you don't have a purpose in the beginning for your piece. Now we're working 5x7s. This is also a perfect size to frame. Wouldn't that be pretty? What a little accent piece framed out for any room or any vignette, or to fill in the spaces between larger paintings on the wall, things like that. Wouldn't that be pretty? All right, till next time, let's all stay scrap happy.